Hi, I'm Nicholas Lodge, and in this video I'm going to show you some fun things to make with my Nicholas Lodge collection large wood slice, also with the medium wood slice and the continuous bark mold. So let's get started. So here we have the, this is my large Nicholas Lodge collection log slice. This is the medium log slice. And then this is the continuous bark mold. So I'm going to show you some fun like cookies and confections made using these components. Now, if you haven't watched my other YouTube, I do have a YouTube video on showing how to use my large wood slice to make like tree trunk cakes and moss and grass and lots of different fun things. So check that out if you haven't watched that. So first of all, I'm going to show you these bark cookies. So these are like to look like somebody's carved their name in a tree. This one is an inlay, which obviously is another way you can do this technique. And so these cookies are really fun to do. And if you were doing like a woodland themed wedding or a barn wedding or semi-naked, naked type of cake, this fits in very well with that rustic look. Now, when we do that, we're going to take the mold. This is the continuous bark mold. And because I'm making these sort of square cookies, I'm going to start off with 50 grams of either milk chocolate modeling chocolate or a milk chocolate colored fondant. Now, generally when I'm doing cookies, you know, I will often use modeling chocolate on cookies because of course they taste much nicer than fondant does. Just like I'm also going to show in this video how to do like a little mini Buche de Noel, a Yule log, and a larger one. Again, I'm using modeling chocolate for those. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to roll this out into a sort of a round and then into a square. So it's going to be approximately about the size of my cookie cutter. This particular cookie cutter I'm going to use here is 9 centimeters. All right, so that basically is about 3.5 inch size square. So of course you could make these smaller or larger. And then I'm going to take my continuous mold. Now, if you watch my previous video on using this mold, obviously I fill the whole mold to do a tree trunk effect. Here I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of vegetable shortening. Just going to rub this onto there, and I'm just going to place this into the mold. I'm going to press this in with my cosmetic sponge. And if you were doing smaller cookies, of course, you could fill the mold up with 100 grams of fondant, and then you, of course, could cut out 2 or 3 of the same time. And then we're going to press with our mat on the top here. So this just distributes the weight. And then we're going to just peel this out. So it's going to come out of the mold to give you your bark effect. Now, when making these cookies, I'm going to take my cookie cutter. I'm going to just kind of cut this out like so. I'm going to pop your excess paste back into your bag. So showing you the first one here. This one is made where what I've done is I've taken a heart cutter. This is an FMM cutter set of 4. You could use a cookie cutter as well. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to just press this in, just sort of fairly gently, not cut through this. And then I'm going to use my companion tool here. I'm just going to go in just a little bit deeper and just make it look a little bit more natural looking. So you're just going to so it doesn't have to be, doesn't want to be too perfect, okay? So you're just going to just make that a little bit like obviously somebody's scored into the tree bark, okay? And then you can, of course, for a wedding, this could be the couple's initials. You could use this technique on a groom's cake. So again, you could have the initials or just a single initial. So, you know, like for example, if I was doing like an N on here, just a single initial. So you can just do this because you want it to look like it's been carved in. And then you can again just go in just a little bit deeper there like so. And so that would be how I would do the first one. Then this needs to dry a little bit. So you can pop that in a food dehydrator. If it's fondant, sugar paste, all right? If it's modeling chocolate, just let it air dry, because if you put modeling chocolate in a food dehydrator, because it's warm, it's really not going to dry. Now, the second one I'm going to show you, it's going to be done in exactly the same technique. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do an inlay. Now, this technique can also be done on a cake, all right? So if you wanted to sort of, for example, do this on the side of a cake. So the nice thing about this is going to be a little bit more, because it looks like you've actually like carved into the tree bark, into the tree trunk, and peeled that away, and then you have the natural color behind it. So when you're doing this on a wedding cake, sometimes it's a little bit easier to see. So if this was on the side of a wedding cake, you could use the same technique. You just would press in with a cutter. And because you're going to have buttercream or ganache, you just peel out this little piece here. You see, and you could also make like heart-shaped ones. I mean, you can do lots of different things using this technique. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to roll out some modeling chocolate. So you just would roll this out. I've already got some rolled out. This is just white modeling chocolate here. I'm going to just take this. And then what I'm going to do, pull this out a little bit thinner. Going to take the cutter. I'm going to use the same cutter like this. And then I would again just use your obviously initial or initials into here. And then just going to go in just a little bit deeper just to make that look like natural. And then this one, what I'm going to do before I inlay that into the cake, because this could go directly into the cake, I'm going to take a little bit of brown dusting powder. This is a light chocolate brown. So this is some chocolate brown with a little bit of cornstarch into it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to just sort of dust around the edge of this. So you're going to get that sort of almost like a shadow effect. And I'm also going to just sort of like just shadow around where I've got the carving here, like so. Okay. Just going to get rid of my napkin here. And then you can take some brown. So I'm going to take then some brown gel color. So this is some brown gel color. Just going to add some vodka to this. And then on this one here, now you can do, if you watch my main video where I show obviously doing the coloring onto the bark, you know, I use a little bit of some gray dust. So you're going to you just use some like gray dust down here. And so you would do that like in stripes, but of course you do this on the whole cookie just to add some little highlights onto here. But this is all shown on my main wood, the tree stump video. And then just taking some brown, just with the brown gel, we're just going to just sort of paint into there. You can just rub over the top with your, if it's a little bit dark, you can use, as I said, a little bit more vodka into here. Just going to paint that. You just almost just rub over with your finger, or you could use a napkin as well. So you're just going to almost like fill in there like so. And then you can just sort of rub over the top of that with your napkin. So it's going to give you that sort of like carved effect, you see? So this is sort of how, and then you can, if you want to, you can add a little bit of some brown. You can just go into some of the little cracks onto here, a little bit of brown gel like this, all right? So that's how you do that one. And then on this one, you would do, again, with the brown here. Just gonna put the brown into the carving. So you're just almost like filling this up, because you want this to look rustic looking, and you want it to look sort of natural. And again, you can take your napkin there. You can just almost just like rub that off. So you're going to get that natural look like it's been carved into the tree. Okay. And then that would be, this one would actually be then inlaid into the cake. So you then would, of course, you let these usually dry, and then you're going to insert this into your inlay like this. And you can put this on top of your cookie, all right, like shortbread cookie. And again, I've used some gray dust on here. So I've used some gray dust. And on my main video of you doing the tree trunk, I've showed like doing two ways of doing moss. So this way is just with a little bit of green royal icing. Just going to put some like moss onto the cookie here with just a little bit of green royal icing, just with your finger. And then the second option is, and on that video I talk about, well, this is actually ground wafer paper with some coloring into it. So what I do there is going to take just a little bit of piping gel. So where you want the moss to go, I'm just going to put a little bit of piping gel into there. And then I'm going to take this with a pipette, and I'm going to just suck up a little bit of this with a pipette, And then I'm just going to just sort of like let that, actually just pump that onto the top. And the wafer paper, the ground wafer paper, is going to then stick to the cookies. But check out my video of making the tree stump, because I go into more detail about what I'm using there. But just some fun, as I said, ideas for, as I said, for a barn wedding, sort of a rustic themed cake using the continuous bark mold. So here you can see this would be like, you could actually do this on the side of a wedding cake. So once you've got your bark all the way around, you could use the technique I showed with using the heart-shaped cookie cutter. And then obviously engraving or scoring a name or initials in there. You could put the date of the wedding. Then alternatively, you could actually cut out with the heart, remove that inside piece, and then do the inlay technique. And so that would be the technique used on the side of the cake. So when I come back, I'm going to show you some ideas for a little mini and larger Buche de Noel, the classic Yule log. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to make the ends for the classic Buche de Noel, the Yule log. So these, of course, can be made in different sizes. I'm going to show you a mini one, and also I have a larger one as well. But this is a really cool way to use the medium log slice. So first of all, what we're going to do is I'm going to roll out some modeling chocolate. I have some white modeling chocolate here. So I've just rolled this out. And if you're going to do little mini Buche de Noels, you obviously don't need to roll out too much because you're only going to be using the middle part of the mold. And then I'm going to take some brown gel color and a little bit of vodka. And then what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to then just going to brush from the outside to the inside. And this washes really, really easily off the mold. So it's not going to stain them or anything. But you're just going to just go over. So you see how I'm just brushing from the outside to the inside. So what this is going to do is going to give the rings. Now again, you only would need to do it as large as this if you're making a full size, a larger Buche de Noel. But just going to rub over the surface like this. Okay, so it's going to be done with brown, the brown gel color. You're going to take your modeling chocolate. Just going to place this on the top. I'm just going to just press this on with my cosmetic sponge here. And then when you take this out, you see how you're going to get the top of, and this could also be used on a mini cake as well. Now for the larger Buche, this is a classic sort of size one. You know, this is a, and what I've done here is I've used this for the two ends, for the two end parts here. And so what I did there is I found a cutter that was about the size of the diameter of the, and typically when you have a, like this is actually a pumpkin roll, but if you have it a sort of classic one with marron with the chestnut puree in them or buttercream. So whatever, you're just going to find a cookie cutter, a round cutter the size you need for the end. And then you would then cut this out. Okay. Now the paste you have left, which is going to have a little bit of browning, you can just re-knead that, because all it's going to do is just going to make it a little bit more mushroomy color. Okay, so it doesn't, then you can just reuse that. And of course, if you're doing the small ones, you just would cut out in the middle here. So that's where you only need to brush the brown in a small area. And then you would just cut off the bottom of this. And in the case of the one that I've done, I just sort of stretched it a little bit. So this would give me the size I need. All right. So you'd make this, so you want to just sort of use this to measure approximately the size you need for the end of your project. Okay. And then what you do is you turn this over. So you turn these over, and again, but you can make these in advance, okay? And obviously if you use fondant, they're going to get sort of quite firm. If you use modeling chocolate, they'll stay a little softer. I'm going to take some chocolate buttercream. So I'm just going to take just a little bit of chocolate buttercream here. I'm going to put just a little bit of that into the middle of the two end caps. So you can make these in advance. I mean, these could be made like a couple of weeks before you need to do your Buche. And when you wash this, just use a little dish soap, just scrub it with like a nail brush. But you don't have to re-wash this between, you know, you could do as many as you need to do. Just apply some more brown, and then when you finish your project. And then also another thing you can do with this for Halloween is if you do this in black, you can do like almost like a spider's web. And then I just piped with royal icing, like a black royal icing spider. So of course you could do these in different shapes. Could do this on orange as well. So that's another thing you can use this for. Now, so we're going to take the, here, I'm just going to pop this onto piece of parchment paper. There we go. So these are little, this particular one is just like a little commercial mini Swiss roll, which is a sort of, this is a perfect way to decorate it. So these are already enrobed with chocolate. So I'm just going to place this onto here. Seeing the studio lights there melting a little bit, but you're going to just pop that onto the end here. I'm going to pop that onto the end here. All right, so that's going to, and of course, you know, when you do Yule log, you can use chocolate buttercream. You could pipe over this. All right, I'm going to actually show you using the continuous tree bark. And I have here some modeling chocolate. So this is all done with modeling chocolate. Okay. Now, so I've used here, when we do the whole continuous bark, we use 100 grams. I've used here 75 grams of paste here. And then what we would do is you need to measure how long this needs to be. All right, so you can see here, this needs to be about 8 centimeters, so about 3¼ inches in length, okay? And then also you need to just sort of measure how big you need this around, the girth of this, all right? So this wants to be, so about 4 inches, all right? So about 10 centimeters, okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do the width here. Now, if you've watched my previous video on how to do the tree stump, this is the technique I use to give you those like edges. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to mark that. So this is going to be 8. This is going to be 8 centimeters. Sorry, here on here. So 8 centimeters. That's what we need in length. Okay. So I'm just going to come in just a little way from here. And I'm just going to just cut with my plastic scraper. So remember, this isn't going to damage it's not going to damage the mold. And what we're going to do is when we pull this away, you'll get like a nice, see, when you pull this away, you're going to get this nice sort of raw edge. So that's the reason why I've also done it the other end as well. So you see, so the two ends of this, you'll have this like raw edge, see? And then remember, this needs to be about 4 inches, about 10 centimeters. So we can just cut that like so. Okay, I'm going to take this out. Now you see, I'm going to, because we want to have the wood grain going this way, all right? So you're using it different. Normally when we put it around the cake, we're doing it horizontal or vertical. Here we're using the mold horizontal, okay? So then what we're going to do is just going to pop this onto a piece of parchment paper like this. So this is all modeling chocolate. So this is obviously really yummy to eat. And as I said, a nice fun thing to do for a sort of a Christmas buffet, dessert buffet. So here we're going to take again some chocolate, buttercream. You could use like a, you know, like flavored one. You could put some Nutella into this. You could actually even use Nutella here as well, which is delicious to use for things like this. So see how you're going to put that into there like so. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this in the, so this is going to start halfway, you can see halfway on the bottom here, like so. And then you're just actually just going to roll this onto there, and just going to stretch this around. This will come around to meet here, like so. And you have your little buche here. And then you can just take your, your little tool here, just a little bit like how I did on the tree trunk. I'm just going to just push that in. If you do have any because of course sometimes your little Swiss rolls might be a little bit smaller, so if you do need to trim that, you can do. We're just going to just push that in. Just going to work that around the edge here like so. So this is how you would make a little mini Buche de Noel. Now, when you do the large one, okay, so this is obviously, as I said, just a standard little mini Swiss roll. So obviously that works perfect with the mold. When you're doing the large one, you can use so what actually I did here is I used two. So what I actually did is I made the Swiss roll the length of not the width, but the length of the height of the mold. So just trim your Swiss roll down if you're buying a commercial Swiss roll so that it's going to be basically the length of the actual mold from here to here, okay? And then what I did there is I, of course, made the ends just the same way. And then I did a panel, so I just used the whole panel, turn it over, put the buttercream on, and then I just pressed it. I don't come underneath this one here. I just pressed it onto the bottom. So I did one piece which goes from there and it comes around to here, okay? Then I did another piece which don't need quite as much. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to use some chocolate buttercream. So just where the seam is here, so where this seam is, I'm just going to just fill that in with some chocolate buttercream. Just going to go in here. And you can also use the chocolate buttercream if you need to. Now, the other way you can do that is you can take your modeling chocolate and you can soften it with water. And if you have any little gaps around you can use the chocolate buttercream just to sort of fill in any little areas here. And that will give you your classic Buche de Noel. Now, of course, this could be decorated in lots of different ways, all right? And so if you watch my video on fun things to do with my new toadstool and mushroom mold, I will be showing how to decorate this Buche de Noel, the larger and the smaller Buche. I'm going to be showing those in my, as I said, in that particular video. So I will actually be showing how to decorate these with classic mushrooms and some other like Christmas pine cones and things like that, just to give you some decorating ideas. But this just gives you some fun ways of using your as I said, the continuous bark mold. And then of course, if you were doing, if you wanted to also, if you don't have the medium one, you can just use your large one. And just like I show on the video, where on my main video for making a tree trunk, you can just make this as obviously the three pieces, the three sections, the 1/3, and then cut this to whatever size you need. So you don't necessarily have to have the medium one. It's just that if you have both of them, that would work out very well for this particular project. So this is your, as I said, your little mini Buche de Noel, and then this is your large Buche de Noel. So I will hope you will enjoy using those for the Christmas season.